The phone was ringing. Ifeanyi's hands trembled as he stared at the blood pooling beneath the old man's head on the asphalt. Around him, dozens of people stood frozen, their phones raised, recording. No one moved. The delivery timer on his bike's screen flashed red. 3 minutes remaining. One more late delivery, and he'd lose everything. The old man's chest rose weakly, then fell. Ifeanyi made his choice. He dropped his phone mid-ring, lifted the frail body into his arms, and mounted his delivery bike. The engine roared to life as he sped toward Grace Mercy Hospital, the old man's blood soaking through his worn shirt. Behind him, the delivery timer hit 0. His supervisor's voice crackled through the Bluetooth earpiece. Ifeanyi, where is that package? You have 60 seconds, or you're done. Sir, there's been an accident. An old man. I don't care if the president collapsed. You deliver that package or don't bother coming back. Ifeanyi's jaw tightened. Then I won't be coming back. He disconnected the call and twisted the throttle harder. If you're already hooked by this story of sacrifice and destiny, hit that subscribe button now. You won't want to miss what happens next, and drop a comment telling us what you would have done in Ifeanyi's position. The hospital's emergency entrance blazed with fluorescent light as Ifeanyi skidded to a stop. 2 nurses rushed forward with a stretcher. Motor accident, Ifeanyi gasped. He was hit by a taxi on Adamola Express. No one helped. He's lost a lot of blood. The nurses moved with practiced efficiency, checking vitals as they wheeled the old man inside. One of them glanced back at Ifeanyi. Are you family? No, Ma. I couldn't leave him. Wait in the corridor. We'll need your statement. Ifeanyi nodded, suddenly aware of the blood covering his uniform, his hands, his shoes. He sank onto a plastic chair, his mind racing. The job was gone. 3 months of rent was due. His younger siblings, Kelechi and Chiamaka, were waiting at home with empty stomachs and school fees he couldn't pay. What had he done? His phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Raji, his supervisor. Your termination is effective immediately. Security has been notified. Do not return to the office. Ifeanyi closed his eyes. The fluorescent lights hummed above him, clinical and indifferent. Around him, the hospital continued its rhythm. Doctors shouting orders, machines beeping, relatives weeping. He'd thrown away his livelihood for a stranger who might not even survive the hour. But then he heard his father's voice, clear as the day before the robbery. Ifeanyi, a man who walks past suffering to protect his own comfort, is already dead inside. You hear me? Already dead. His father had been a clerk at a shipping company, honest to a fault. That honesty had gotten him killed. 1 year ago, armed men had broken into their modest home in the satellite town area of New Karuna City. Ifeanyi had been working a late shift. When he returned at dawn, he found his parents on the living room floor, executed with clinical precision. His mother had tried to shield his father. It hadn't mattered. The police called it a robbery gone wrong. But nothing had been stolen. His father's briefcase, his mother's jewelry, even the small cash box under their bed, all untouched. Only 2 lives taken. Ifeanyi had buried his parents, dropped out of his 2nd year at Gateway Polytechnic, and become guardian to Kelechi, 16, and Chiamaka, 13. The delivery job with Quick Dispatch had been his lifeline, brutal as it was. 12-hour shifts, impossible deadlines, a supervisor who treated him like livestock. Now even that was gone. Excuse me. Ifeanyi looked up. A young doctor stood before him, exhausted but urgent. You brought in the elderly male, correct? Yes, sir. His condition is critical. Severe head trauma, internal bleeding. We've stabilized him, but the next 12 hours will determine everything. You did the right thing bringing him immediately. 10 more minutes and... The doctor shook his head. You saved his life. Something loosened in Ifeanyi's chest. Will he recover? Too early to say. Does he have family? We found no identification. I don't know, sir. I just saw him lying there. The doctor studied him with something like respect. What's your name? Ifeanyi Dyke. Well, Ifeanyi Dyke, you're a good man. Stay as long as you need. I'll have the nurses bring you something clean to wear. As the doctor walked away, Ifeanyi felt the weight of the decision settle over him. Good man. The words felt hollow. A good man would have found a way to save the old man and keep his job. A good man would have a plan for how to feed his siblings tomorrow. He had neither. The night dragged on. Ifeanyi dozed in the corridor, jerking awake every time a doctor passed. At 3 a.m., a nurse informed him the old man had been moved to the ICU. His condition was stable, but guarded. You should go home, she said gently. There's nothing more you can do tonight. Ifeanyi nodded, but didn't move. Home meant facing Kalechi and Chiamaka. Home meant admitting he'd failed them again. Dawn broke over New Karuna City, painting the hospital windows gold. Ifeanyi finally stood, his body stiff and aching. He'd go home, face his siblings, and figure out the next move. Maybe construction work, maybe night security. Anything. He was heading toward the exit when the hospital's atmosphere shifted. The automatic doors opened, and a presence entered, the kind that makes conversations stop and heads turn. 2 bodyguards in dark suits moved first, scanning the corridor with professional efficiency. Then came the man himself. He was perhaps 40, tall and commanding, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Ifeanyi's annual salary. His face was carved with authority and something deeper, barely controlled fear. Where is Solomon Adebayo? His voice carried the weight of someone used to instant obedience. The receptionist stammered. ICU, sir. Room 7. But visiting hours, now. The bodyguards moved, and hospital protocol evaporated. Doctors and nurses scattered as the man strode toward the ICU, like Moses parting the Red Sea. Ifeanyi watched, transfixed, as the man reached room 7 and stopped. Through the glass, Ifeanyi glimpsed the old man he'd saved, now surrounded by machines and tubes. The powerful man's shoulders sagged. He pressed one hand against the glass, and for a moment, the authority cracked, revealing something raw and human. Papa, the man whispered. A nurse approached cautiously. Sir, are you Mr. Adebayo's son? I'm Daniel Adebayo. This is my father. What happened? Why wasn't I notified immediately? Sir, he had no identification when he was brought in. We only discovered his identity an hour ago through his fingerprints in our system. We called you immediately. Who brought him here? The nurse hesitated, then turned and pointed directly at Ifeanyi. That young man, he carried your father in on a motorcycle. The doctors say without his quick action, your father wouldn't have survived. Daniel Adebayo's gaze locked onto Ifeanyi with an intensity that made him want to flee. The man crossed the corridor in 5 strides. You brought my father here. Ifeanyi nodded, suddenly aware of the borrowed hospital scrubs he wore, the dried blood still under his fingernails. Yes, sir. There was an accident on Adamola Express. A taxi hit him and drove off. No one was helping, so You saved his life. Daniel's voice had dropped to something almost dangerous. The nurses told me everything. You abandoned your delivery to help a stranger. It was the right thing to do, sir. The right thing. Daniel repeated the words like they were foreign. Do you know who my father is? Ifeanyi shook his head. Solomon Adebayo, former Chief Justice of Lagos State, the man who sent 15 corrupt politicians to prison in the 1990s, the man who survived 4 assassination attempts. Daniel's eyes glistened. This morning, he went for his usual walk against my advice, always stubborn, always believing the best in people. He pulled out his phone, made a call. Clear my schedule for the day? Yes, everything. I don't care if the Chinese delegation is here. Reschedule. He hung up and refocused on Ifeanyi. What's your name? Ifeanyi Dyke, sir. Ifeanyi. You lost your job because of this? The question caught him off guard. How did you? I had my people pull the security footage from the street. We saw everything. The accident, the crowd doing nothing, you making the choice. Daniel's expression was unreadable. So I'll ask again. You lost your job? Yes, sir. This is the moment everything changes. If your heart is racing right now, smash that like button and tell us in the comments what you think Daniel will do next. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. This story is just getting started. Daniel pulled out a business card, pressed it into Ifeanyi's palm. Come to this address tomorrow at 9 a.m. Don't be late. Sir, I don't understand. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Daniel turned back to his father's room, then paused. Ifeanyi? Yes, sir. Thank you. From the deepest part of my soul. Thank you. Then he was gone, disappearing into the ICU with his bodyguards. Ifeanyi stared at the card. Daniel Adebayo, CEO, Prime Hall Logistics. Corporate headquarters, Victoria Island. Prime Hall. Everyone in New Karuna City knew that name. They weren't just a logistics company. They were an empire. Warehouses across West Africa, contracts with international corporations, a fleet that dwarfed every competitor combined. And he'd just been summoned by its CEO. The walk home took an hour. Ifeanyi couldn't afford the bus fare. His mind churned with possibilities and doubts. Was this gratitude or pity? Would Daniel offer him a job or just thank him formally and send him away? It didn't matter. He'd go. What choice did he have? The apartment in Satellite Town was quiet when he entered. Kelechi sat at the small table, textbooks spread before her, chewing the end of a pencil. Chiamaka was still asleep on the worn mattress they shared. Kelechi looked up, her eyes widening at the borrowed scrubs. Ifeanyi, what happened? Where's your uniform? Did you get hurt? He sank onto a plastic chair. I'm fine. There was an accident. I helped someone. But your job? Gone. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Kelechi's face crumpled. Oh no. Ifeanyi, what are we going to do? I don't know yet. He pulled out Daniel's card, set it on the table between them. But maybe something good is coming. I need you to trust me. Kelechi picked up the card, her eyes widening. Prime Hall? Ifeanyi, this is huge. How did you? The man I saved. His son runs Prime Hall. Then there's hope. Kelechi's optimism was painful to witness. She'd always been the dreamer, even after their parents died. He's going to help us. I know it. Maybe. We'll see tomorrow. But as Ifeanyi lay down on the floor that night, staring at the cracked ceiling, doubt consumed him. Men like Daniel Adebayo didn't lift people like him out of poverty. That only happened in movies. Tomorrow would probably be a handshake, maybe some money for his trouble, and a return to the desperate job hunt. Still, he allowed himself one dangerous thought. What if? Morning came too quickly. Ifeanyi rose at 6 a.m., showered with their carefully rationed water, and dressed in the only decent clothes he owned, black trousers, with a patch on one knee, a white shirt his mother had ironed the week before she died. He stared at his reflection in the cracked mirror. He looked exactly like what he was, a desperate young man with nothing to offer the world except his willingness to work. The journey to Victoria Island required 2 buses and ate up his last savings. He arrived at Prime Hall's headquarters at 8:45 a.m., sweating through his shirt despite the morning cool. The building was glass and steel, 15 stories of corporate power. Security guards in crisp uniforms flanked the entrance. Ifeanyi approached, clutching Daniel's card like a talisman. I have an appointment with Mr. Daniel Adebayo. The guard's skeptical gaze traveled from Ifeanyi's patched trousers to his worn shoes. Name? Ifeanyi Dyke. The guard spoke into his radio, listened, then his expression transformed into shock. Go right up, sir. 15th floor. Mr. Adebayo is expecting you. The lobby was a cathedral of marble and chrome. Employees in expensive suits moved with purpose, their footsteps echoing. Ifeanyi felt like an imposter, a street dog that had wandered into a palace. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like ascending to another world. When the doors opened, a woman in a sharp blazer greeted him with a professional smile. Mr. Dyke, please follow me. Mr. Adebayo is in his office. They walked through an open floor plan where dozens of people worked at sleek computers. Every eye followed Ifeanyi. The whispers started immediately. The woman knocked on a double door at the far end, then opened it. Daniel's office was larger than Ifeanyi's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lagos Harbor, leather furniture, abstract art, a desk that looked like it belonged in a museum. Daniel stood at the window, phone to his ear. I don't care what the unions say. Those workers get their benefits, or we shut down the entire Western Corridor. Yes, the entire corridor. Try me. He ended the call and turned. Ifeanyi, you came. Yes, sir. You told me to. And you're exactly on time. I like that. Daniel gestured to a chair. Sit. Please. Ifeanyi sat gingerly, afraid he might break something. Daniel took the seat across from him, not behind his desk, but at the same level. My father woke up this morning, Daniel said quietly. The doctors are calling it remarkable. Full consciousness, no apparent brain damage. They're saying it's a miracle. Relief flooded through Ifeanyi. Thank God. Yes. Daniel's eyes never left his face. Thank God. And thank you. Ifeanyi, I had you investigated last night. I hope you don't mind. I needed to know who you were. Ifeanyi's stomach dropped. Sir, I know about your parents. I know how they died. I know you've been raising your siblings alone for a year. I know you worked for Quick Dispatch, under a supervisor who's currently under review for labor violations. I know you were 3 months behind on rent and had 19 naira in your bank account yesterday morning. Shame burned through Ifeanyi. To have his poverty laid bare like this, by a man who could probably buy his entire neighborhood without noticing the expense. I also know, Daniel continued, that you've never missed a rent payment before your parents died, that you were on the Dean's list at Gateway Polytechnic, that your younger sister writes poetry and your brother wants to be an engineer, that you worked 3 jobs to keep them in school and food on the table. Ifeanyi couldn't speak. So here's what's going to happen. Daniel leaned forward. You're going to work for me, not as a delivery rider, as a logistics coordinator trainee. The pay is 200,000 naira a month to start. You'll go back to school part-time. We have a corporate scholarship program. Your siblings' school fees will be covered through our family foundation. Your rent will be paid directly through company housing assistance. The room spun. Sir, I don't understand. Why would you do this? Because you did something extraordinary yesterday. You sacrificed everything for a stranger. Do you know how rare that is? In this city? In this world? Daniel's voice grew passionate. I built Prime Hall from nothing, Ifeanyi. 20 years ago, I was driving a Danfo bus to pay for university. I know what poverty tastes like. And I know that character, real character, is the rarest resource in this country. I need people like you in my company, people who will do the right thing even when it costs them everything. Tears burned Ifeanyi's eyes. He fought them back. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Say you'll start Monday. Say you'll let me help your family the way someone once helped mine. Yes. The word came out broken. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Daniel stood, extended his hand. Welcome to Prime Hall, Ifeanyi. Now, before you leave, my father wants to meet you. He's been asking about you since he woke up." They went to Grace Mercy Hospital in Daniel's Mercedes, a vehicle so luxurious Ifeanyi was afraid to touch anything. The bodyguards followed in a second car. Solomon Adebayo was sitting up in bed when they arrived, an oxygen cannula in his nose, but his eyes bright and alert. When he saw Ifeanyi, his weathered face broke into a smile. "So, you're the angel who saved this stubborn old man." Ifeanyi approached the bed. "I'm no angel, sir. Just someone who couldn't walk away." "Couldn't or wouldn't?" "Both, sir." Solomon laughed, then winced. "Ah, even laughing hurts. But it's worth it. Come closer, young man. Let me see you properly." Ifeanyi moved to the bedside. Solomon reached out, took his hand with surprising strength. "My son tells me you gave up your livelihood to help me, that you're raising 2 younger ones alone, that you've known hardship." "Yes, sir." "Then you understand something most people never learn, that wealth isn't counted in naira, but in character. You're rich, Ifeanyi Dyke, richer than most men I've met in my 78 years. Solomon's eyes glistened. "I lost a son once, 20 years ago. Malaria took him before Daniel was born. I've thought about him every day since. Yesterday, God sent me another son. You hear me? Another son." Ifeanyi's tears finally fell. "Sir, I accept it. You saved me. And now I'm going to be part of your life, whether you like it or not. That's how family works." The weeks that followed transformed Ifeanyi's existence. He started at Prime Hall, and though the work was challenging, he devoured every lesson. Daniel personally mentored him, teaching him not just logistics, but leadership, strategy, the art of building something meaningful. Kelechi and Chiamaka moved into a better apartment in Surulere. Their new schools had libraries, computer labs, teachers who cared. Chiamaka joined the drama club. Kelechi's poetry was published in the school magazine. Solomon recovered fully and insisted Ifeanyi visit him every Sunday. They'd sit in Solomon's garden, the old man sharing stories of the law, of justice, of the Nigeria he'd fought to build. "You remind me that the fight isn't over," Solomon told him one Sunday, "that there are still young people worth believing in." Life was finally impossibly good. Then Mr. Raji appeared. "The danger is just beginning, and you need to see what happens next. Drop a comment right now with your prediction, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the explosive confrontation coming up." It started with whispers. Ifeanyi noticed them during his 3rd week at Prime Hall. Co-workers, who'd been friendly suddenly distant. Eyes that followed him with suspicion. One morning, he overheard 2 managers in the break room. Too convenient, if you ask me. Right place at the right time. Please. I heard he was following the old man, planned the whole thing. And now he's Daniel's golden boy? Something's not right. Ifeanyi's blood ran cold. He confronted his supervisor, a kind woman named Mrs. Bello. "Who's spreading these lies?" She hesitated. "There's been talk. Someone from your previous employer has been calling people, saying you manipulated the situation, that you've been planning this for months. That's insane. I didn't even know who Mr. Solomon was. I believe you, Ifeanyi, but gossip spreads faster than truth." That evening, Ifeanyi received a message from an unknown number. "You think you've won? I'll destroy you the way you destroyed me." He showed it to Daniel the next morning. Daniel's face darkened. "This is Raji, your former supervisor. He was fired last week after we discovered he'd been embezzling from Quick Dispatch. He blames you for exposing him." "But I didn't. You didn't have to. When we reinstated you and investigated the company's practices, everything came to light. Now he wants revenge." Daniel made a call. "Increase security around Ifeanyi and his family immediately. Yes, immediately." The threats escalated. Messages, phone calls, a brick through the window of their new apartment while the siblings were at school. Ifeanya wanted to quit, to disappear, to protect everyone by leaving. That's exactly what he wants, Solomon told him firmly. You run now. You prove every lie he's told. You stand firm. You show everyone who you really are. But my brother and sister are safe. We have security watching them every moment. Ifeanyi, I've faced down death threats from drug lords and corrupt governors. You think I'll let some petty supervisor harm my family? Our family. The word steadied him. Family. Daniel launched a quiet investigation, and within days, the truth emerged. Security footage showed Raji had been following Ifeanyi the day of the accident, hoping to catch him violating company rules. When Ifeanyi helped Solomon instead, Raji saw his chance to get him fired. He's been arrested, Daniel told Ifeanyi. Multiple charges including embezzlement, harassment, and attempted extortion. He won't bother you again. But the incident left Ifeanyi shaken. He'd glimpsed how quickly fortune could reverse, how fragile this new life was. Then Mrs. Moreniki Ayo appeared. She was waiting outside Prime Hall's headquarters one evening, a small woman in her 60s, wearing traditional wrapper and headscarf. When Ifeanyi emerged, she approached with urgent steps. Ifeanyi Dyke. Yes? I need to speak with you. It's about your parents. The world stopped. What about my parents? Not here, please, tomorrow. There's a church on Bode Thomas Street, St. Michael's. Meet me there at noon. Tell me now. Tomorrow, please. What I have to say. You need to be sitting down. She was gone before he could respond, vanishing into the evening crowd like smoke. Ifeanyi barely slept. At noon the next day, he sat in St. Michael's empty sanctuary, his heart hammering. Mrs. Ayo appeared from the shadows, genuflected before the altar, then sat beside him. I was there, she said without preamble. The night your parents died, I lived next door. I saw everything. Ifeanyi's hands clenched. The police said it was a robbery. The police were paid to say that. Her voice shook. I saw the men who came. 3 of them. Professionals. They didn't break in. They had keys. They went straight to your parents. Your father knew why they were there. I heard him shouting, I won't sign. You can't make me sign. Sign what? I don't know. But I recognized one of the men. He works for Chief Bamidel Kazim. The name meant nothing to Ifeanyi. Chief Kazim owns half the real estate in Lagos. Oil contracts, construction, import-export. He's also the most corrupt businessman in Nigeria. Mrs. Ayo's eyes filled with tears. Your father worked in shipping documentation. I think he refused to sign off on illegal cargo, so they killed him. And your mother, because she witnessed it. Ifeanyi couldn't breathe. Murder. Not random robbery, but execution. Because his father had integrity. Why didn't you tell the police? I was terrified. Chief Kazim's reach is everywhere. I have grandchildren. I kept silent to protect them. She gripped his hand. But I've watched you, Ifeanyi. Watched you raise your siblings, work yourself to exhaustion, never complaining. And when I saw the news about you saving Solomon Adebayo, I knew God was giving you power to finally get justice. So I'm giving you this. She pressed a USB drive into his palm. Security footage from my nanny camera. It recorded everything through my window. The men, the murder, everything. Take it to the police, to the newspapers. End this. Ifeanyi stared at the tiny device. Justice. After a year of grief and unanswered questions. If I do this, Chief Kazim will come after you. Let him. I'm old, and I'm tired of being afraid. Your parents deserve the truth. That evening, Ifeanyi sat with Daniel and Solomon in Solomon's study, the USB drive between them. This is dangerous, Daniel said, his voice tight. Chief Kazim has destroyed people for less. Politicians, journalists, judges, not me, Solomon interrupted. I sent his brother to prison in 1998. He's hated me for 25 years. And now we have evidence he's a murderer. The old judge's eyes blazed. We take this to the National Criminal Investigation Bureau. We make it public before he can bury it. And we end him. It could take years, Daniel warned. Then it takes years. Solomon looked at Ifeanyi. Your father died for his integrity. Will you honor that, or let his killers walk free? Ifeanyi thought of his father's voice. A man who walks past suffering is already dead inside. We fight. The case against Chief Bamidele Kazim became the biggest criminal trial in Nigeria in a decade. The media descended, turning Ifeanyi's life into a circus. Mrs. Ayo's footage was damning, clear images of the killers, audio of the murder, evidence that shattered every lie. Chief Kazim's lawyers were vicious. They attacked Ifeanyi's character, dredged up every mistake, every hardship. They claimed he was manipulating the justice system for money, for fame. But Solomon guided him through it. Let them scream. Truth doesn't need to shout. The trial lasted 6 months. Ifeanyi testified, reliving the worst night of his life in excruciating detail. He saw his mother's face in his mind, heard his father's last defiant words. When the verdict came, the courtroom was packed. On all charges, we find the defendant, Chief Bamidele Kazim, guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and corruption. The sentence is life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Ifeanyi collapsed into his seat, sobbing. Kelechi and Chiamaka held him. Daniel's hand was firm on his shoulder. Solomon wept openly. Justice. Finally, impossibly, justice. In the aftermath, Ifeanyi found peace he hadn't known was possible. His parents' names were cleared. Their story became a rallying cry against corruption. Mrs. Ayo became a national hero, her courage inspiring others to come forward with their own buried truths. Prime Hall continued to grow, and Ifeanyi with it. He completed his degree, was promoted to regional logistics manager, then director of operations. He never forgot where he came from. He started a foundation in his parents' names, helping orphans and vulnerable youth across Nigeria. Kelechi graduated top of her class and became a journalist, writing about social justice. Chiamaka went to university on a full scholarship, studying medicine. Solomon became the grandfather they'd lost, present at every milestone, every celebration. He and Ifeanyi were inseparable, the old judge who'd survived 4 assassination attempts and the young man who'd saved his life becoming true family. 5 years after that fateful day on Adamola Express, Ifeanyi stood on a stage at the new Karuna Youth Empowerment Summit. 500 young people filled the auditorium, their faces hungry for hope. I was 19 years old when I made the hardest choice of my life, Ifeanyi began. I was about to lose my job, my only source of income. My family was depending on me, and an old man was dying in the street while everyone watched. The auditorium was silent. I want to tell you that I made that choice easily, that I knew everything would work out. But I didn't. I was terrified. I was sure I was destroying my family's future. But I also knew that if I walked away, I'd become someone I couldn't live with. He paused, gathering his thoughts. That choice cost me everything, and gave me everything back. Not just a job or money, but meaning, purpose, family, justice for my parents, a chance to help others find their own paths. In the front row, Solomon sat with Daniel, both men watching with pride. So here's what I want you to remember. Your character is tested most when helping others costs you everything. In those moments, you discover who you really are. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, The universe rewards that character in ways you never imagined. Ifeanyi smiled, his voice growing stronger. I lost everything once. My parents, my education, my security. I gave up the last thing I had, my job, to save a stranger. And that stranger's son gave me a future. That stranger became my father. That choice became my destiny. He looked out at the sea of young faces. One act of kindness. One moment of courage. That's all it takes to change not just your life, but the world around you. The applause was thunderous. After the event, Ifeanyi found Solomon in the green room. Your father would be proud, the old man said softly. I wish he could see the man you've become. He can, Ifeanyi replied. Through you. You've been the father I needed exactly when I needed him. Solomon embraced him, this son given back by grace. This is the ending that will stay with you. If this story moved you, if it made you believe in the power of kindness again, do 3 things right now. Smash that like button, leave a comment telling us your favorite moment, and subscribe so you never miss another life-changing story. Your support means everything to us, and these stories need to be heard. Outside, New Karuna City continued its chaotic rhythm. Delivery. Riders wove through traffic, chasing impossible deadlines. People rushed past suffering, protecting their own interests. Life was hard and getting harder. But somewhere in that city, someone was making a choice. Choosing compassion over comfort. Choosing another's life over their own security. And though they couldn't know it yet, that choice would echo forward, rippling outward in ways they'd never imagine. Because that's how transformation happens. One moment, one decision, one act of impossible courage that changes everything. Ifeanyi Dyke understood that now, and every day he worked to help others discover it too. The boy who'd had nothing had become a man with everything that mattered, not because life got easy, but because he'd chosen right when it cost him most. And in the end, that choice made all the difference.